Hello, everyone. Welcome to our exit interviews for Genius Game. We've got a big one today because we are doing the three Bs. We've got Benjamin, Beex, and Medalia coming in to talk. I'm here, of course, with Cory, and we're joined by one of the stars of the season, one of our favorite players to watch, Benjamin. Benjamin, how are you doing the night or the day after being eliminated from Genius Game?
I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would be. I thought I would be really upset and in tears, but I just feel really happy and relieved, actually. And also stoked to be on Rob Has a Podcast. I can't tell you the amount of hours I have watched Rob Has a Podcast videos, and now I'm fucking on it. Wait, can I say fuck?
Yeah, this is our show. This isn't Rob's. I'm hoping that not too many kids are watching Genius Game. I don't know if it's got like the TikTok brain good for them.
Yeah.
I guess my
It was
first
very
question is.
funny. Well, I just want to say,
Sorry.
when we were organizing the podcast at first and talking to some of the people over at ITV, they were talking about how, like, oh my God, Benjamin called out this podcast as one that had to cover the show. And we're just like, oh, I know who I'm rooting for at the start.
Well, I'll go one further. I was trying to take your gig.
Oh, really?
Oh,
You were trying. You reached out to host the podcast?
Absolutely. I was like, Rob Has a Podcast, will want to cover this, and who better than someone who was on the season? And ITV was politely just ignoring me for like several weeks.
You could see for season 2. I'm sure you got a good pitch. Okay. First question I want to ask is, obviously, like, we know you're a big fan of the Genius. We don't need to get into the whole backstory of it. I guess biggest question with that is, when you were coming into this game, how much were you expecting repeat games? How much were you expecting new games? And then with what we got, having basically seen all the main matches play out so far, what did you think it was the right balance? Like, is it what you expected essentially?
Yeah, I was definitely expecting at least some repeats. And I can't say too much, but throughout the audition process, there was some hints that perhaps there would be things repeated. And that's why I really leaned in hard to studying. And I went into the game thinking, I mean, this is me being naive. I thought that there would be a lot more people like me who were going to be super strategy minded, really cutthroat, and also would have prepared and studied as much as I did. So I think they got the balance right, because just a full copy of the Korean show is kind of boring. And I think they did a really good job for the most part. Maybe one particular death match aside, I think they did a really good job of having main matches and death matches that were new, but also in the spirit of the Korean show.
Sure.
Well, so let's talk about this. So obviously you are one of the more strategic players on the cast, and you link that up with your super fan knowledge. That seems like really useful. But obviously, in a lot of these main matches, you were a big proponent of like these groups that always seem to form, and these like inexplicable alliances in games where, from our perspective, alliances didn't really seem optimal. Do you think that read is accurate? And why do you think like alliances had such a bigger role here than they did in the Genius South Korea?
So I think most of these games, the way to win them was to form a majority alliance, lock it down, and go to the end. So that's, I think, the best strategy if you're trying to win these games. The problem with that is that not everyone in the majority alliance can have a token of life. So if you are in the majority alliance, you either have to get your ass a token, or you have to be confident that people are scared enough of you that they're not going to call you in. So I still think that playing a lot of these games with a majority team is the way to win the game. And I felt confident that people weren't going to be targeting me if they came in last place. Where I was more vulnerable was someone forcing me into last place in the game. And so for someone like me, it's even more important to be in the majority, because then they're not going to team up to force you into last place. So I think it was a smart way to play these games. I was expecting more individual games, like an auction or things where you would play in individuals or in pairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been good.
Yeah. Let's talk more about like this final episode that we saw of you. Obviously we saw like the way it played out. I really am curious about this final death match specifically. Like, getting the full like retrospect, full hindsight. Is there a way that you could have pulled off the win? Because you were really close in that final round. How do you play it differently?
For the main match?
No, let's do the death match, and then we can go back into the main match.
Yeah, so for the death match, they don't really show it this way, but Charlotte was the starting player for that final round of the deathmatch. If Bedalia blocks her and she blocks him, I'm then the starting player in the next round. So
And then you
even
win.
quite come across, I was in the strongest position, I think. Like the most
Oh,
likely.
you were sorry. Let me just interrupt real quick. So it would have been Charlotte, and then you would have been the next starting. So it was going clockwise.
Yes.
That's
So
interesting. Okay.
the only way Bedalia can win at that point is to block Charlotte and hope that she doesn't block him back. But if he blocks Charlotte, she's absolutely blocking him, because what they didn't show was that early on in the deathmatch, Charlotte asks Bedalia, if you can't win, who do you want to win between me and Ben? And he says, Ben. And she says, me too. So, I was sitting pretty because both of them wanted me to win. And that's why Charlotte knew that her strategy in the deathmatch needed to be to mindfuck Medalia and scramble him so that he would mess up. And that's exactly what happened. But I maintain, and people are going to say whatever you want, I think I was in the strongest position in that final round, because if they block each other, which is the rational thing to do, then I win on the next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I played it perfectly. Like, I still made mistakes in the deathmatch, but.
So just a quick follow-up on that, like how the final round plays out, where, Bedalia just doesn't get his bluff or his doubt out in time. Do you think you could have played that differently, or do you think at that point it's out of your hands, see where the chips fall?
Yeah, so I watched your guys' recap last night. So one thing that they don't explain is that we did not have a clock or any audio or visual indication of the timer. So in the show, there's like a ticking.
That's
we
great.
we had nothing. Now, I'm on Team Cory, that Bedalia didn't realize he needed to. I don't think Bedalia knew that if he fails to block Charlotte, he loses the game. I honestly don't think he knew that. But that being said, we didn't know when these seconds were going to be expired. And for me, it happened in slow motion. And I did tell him, drop it, like play it. And he just didn't listen. So I think maybe I could have said more, but it was really hard in that moment to know whether I needed to upset the status quo, because for most of that game, the status quo was Bedalia was going to help me win. And I actually do think that if he realized he was in a kingmaker position, he still would have picked me to win over Charlotte.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I'll still say, like, doing the half-second drop for Medalia feels like his only window to win. So I'm still giving him a little bit of credit.
But I don't think he knew that.
Yeah.
You know what's great? We're going to be able to ask him very soon. And as you know, exit interviews are canon, so whatever he says
is the truth.
I'm going to believe forever. And I think he's going to be on my side. Okay. So let's go into the main match now. Obviously we saw Ken pull off like phenomenal move there. What was your path to win? Because you were in such a great position up until that final round. What was the play you needed to make to win that main match?
Yeah, so what wasn't shown here is that Ken and I were tied on garnets, because Bedalia had given him 2 and Allison gave him 1. So Ken and I were tied on garnets going into this episode. And the reason that matters is because the tiebreaker condition for this main match was a number of different things, and last was garnets. And so we only found out the tiebreaker rules, I think, at the start of round 3. And so Charlotte realized that she needed to win 2 points in the final round in order for her to win. So it was really going to come down to me and Ken if we tied. And basically, because we were tied on everything, we were going to draw balls from a bag to see who was the finalist. And when the producers came out and told us this tiebreaker rules, they basically said, we really don't want this to end in a tie. And I think that, combined with me being so preoccupied about Ken, is what caused me to go 0-0-4. And I was debating so much between 3-2-0 or 2-3-0 and then 0-0-4. And had I done it 3-2 or 2-3, Ken and I would have tied and been drawing balls. So I regret that. It's my biggest mistake in the game that I let things get in my head. But I chose the path that was not going to be a tie.
I do enjoy the the producer saying, please, please don't ruin our game. But in general, you've had a lot of history with both of these finalists. You worked very closely with Charlotte throughout the entire game, and you gunned for Ken when you had the chance to choose one person to single out. So give us your like scouting report of these two people. Try to transport yourself back. How do you think this matchup looks?
For the final.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's say to make it specific, like if Ken wins this show, why did he just win? And if Charlotte wins this show, why did she just win?
Well, I think their paths to the final are both very different because I think Charlotte was playing the game harder from day one. Because from the first main match, she was playing to win that game, and then she was playing quite hard to stay out of the death matches, which she did successfully. I think that Ken really turned it up starting episode 4. And I did know that he was going to be tough in the death matches and in the games, which is why I targeted him when I could.
Yep.
And that all came from the first episode when we were watching Paul and Pasha play Same or Different. I did not give a shit what was going on with Paul and Pasha. I was looking at everyone else in the lounge, and Ken and Charlotte were the two best people at Same or Different. And so for me, whether you are good at RHAP is honestly a really good barometer for how good of a genius player you are, and also your threat to win the whole thing. Because if you're shit at death matches, you're not going to win the genius. You have to be good at the death matches at the end of the day. So that's what made Ken a huge target in my mind, even before he really demonstrated how strategic and clever he was at the main matches.
Makes sense.
Gotcha.
I think they're both very strong.
Oh, absolutely. Real quick, how much did you clue your fellow contestants into your genius knowledge?
Yes, I think people don't see this, but basically no one really knew until episode 6 when we did the Diamond
really?
Dilemma. Yes, and that is why Charlotte was telling Indy to pick me for the death match. But Charlotte has since said that if she knew on episode 5 how prepared I was and how much I had studied, that she would have never told Indy to go after me. But I only revealed that to Ken and Charlotte once I knew we were going to lose in Diamond Dilemma, because at that point, I was thinking the most likely outcome was that the red team would have a joint win. They would pick Charlotte to be last place, and Charlotte, I needed to pick Ken rather than me. So that's when I took off the mask and I was like, I teach negotiations. I've run this genius game before. I've studied this shit back to front. And of course, there's not enough time to include all that stuff, but
could have included some of it. It could have been like, I'm telling you, it's going to be same picture hunt this next game. Like
they even had the letters in the same like order on the grid. I was like, this is insane. So you're the only person on this cast who I think had like reasonable expectations as to what the show would look like, obviously. So like, how did your expectations, like, did they meet reality? Did they fall short in areas? I'm just curious how you think this whole thing was done.
Did they exceed?
I think everything far exceeded. I think the only thing that was different than what I could have hoped for is that I just went into it assuming that all of the players were going to be quite strategic and cutthroat. And I think I definitely underestimated how polite and British everyone was going to be. And I think that has been to my detriment, both in terms of how the game unfolded, but also in terms of how people are perceiving the game. Because I think British people are not ready for big homosexual American Ben coming in and like dominating everything. But like, I've grown up on Survivor and Big Brother, and this is how you play the game. And so I think that was the only difference.
You did feel like you were transplanted from like a Survivor or a Big Brother season with the genius knowledge and put into this show with people who were, definitely very different personality matches. I think we said in one of the episodes that like one of our favorite parts of the show was just watching Benjamin react to things and get like flustered and get frustrated at people. And they just were, I was like, I want them to frustrate him more. Like there aren't enough things for him to be frustrated about. Before we let you go, do you want to do the quick like word association? Since there's only 2 people left, I figure we can just run through the whole cast.
Yes, but I find it hard to pick just one word for people, but I'll try my best.
I'll give you short
2.
phrases,
It could be
okay?
it could be 2, 3 words. We just don't need a sentence on someone, And remember, like
this is when I left, right?
Yes.
Yeah, try to transport like you've just left the genius house. Okay. So well, let's just go in order. So let's just do Paul.
Paul was a character.
Okay.
Scott.
Scott. Scott, yeah.
Formidable. Threat.
Pasha.
Unpredictable.
Amonfi.
Oh, wonderful, amazing. I love.
India. Yeah.
Clever.
Allison.
Allison. Okay, at the time, tough.
Bex.
Bex. Pain in my ass is what Bex
Yeah.
was. No, I think at the time I really didn't respect Bex in the game or the game she was playing. I feel very differently now. Like she was playing a very top tier social game. So yeah, the way I feel about her now is totally different.
Medalia.
Confused.
I want to list at the end of this, at the end of all these podcasts, of all the words people use to describe Medalia. We need to ask him later, Zach.
In Bedalia's defense, he made a move and played for himself in this game.
That was awesome.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I've grown to love with him. Is like he was always fighting for that token.
Yes.
Not always fighting optimally, but, you know, he was fighting for it. And then lastly, we've got Charlotte.
Charlotte is undercover assassin.
And Ken.
Ken would just be forgiving and smart.
Yes. Yeah. Benjamin, are you a Blood in the Clock Tower person at all?
Yes, and there is a universe where if Genius Game films like 2 weeks later, I would know who Ken was from No Rules Barred. Like I had been getting into Clock Tower and had been playing it a lot, and the people I play with knew No Rules Barred, and they all know Ken from the show, but I hadn't been clued into that yet. And I really wonder in a different universe how the game would have unfolded had I recognized Ken from day one.
That's me with Tori on her fucking sequester game.
Same
exact. It's the same exact regret, so don't even worry. Like, you know.
Me with Suri.
Right. The game changers, yeah. Benjamin, thank you so much for joining us. We obviously have a lot more questions. Hopefully we'll get the chance to talk later with you. But until then, have a great time. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We are here for our triple exit interview. And right now we have the one and only Bex. Bex, how are you doing day after you've been eliminated from Genius Game? What are the feelings?
Relief. No, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, it was my moment. Like I was ready to go. I wish they'd done the episode slightly different. There's a lot that we didn't see. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good.
It's the place to tell us about it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the question we ask everyone at the start of these podcasts.
Yeah.
How do you end up on Genius Game? How do you end up applying? Just how do you get from point A, living a normal life, to point B, being a reality TV superstar?
Okay, that's nice of you. Well, to be honest, I just like game shows. I've been going on them for about 13 years. The first one I ever went on was The Chase back in the day. And I just enjoy the whole, I just enjoy the day. I enjoy going, I enjoy filming it. I enjoy, trying my hardest. It's just fun. And I was in bed one night. It must have been about 2:15 in the morning. I was like, what can I do? I can't sleep. And I was like, oh, I know, I'll apply for a load of TV shows. And that's basically what I did. I go through phases of not applying for about 6 years, and then I'll apply for about 20 in one night. And so that's what I did. And it came across, and I was just like, oh, Genius Game, what's that? Don't really understand it. But I'd never heard of the South Korean version, had no idea what that was about. So I just applied for it. And then next thing I know, I'm starting to have chats. And to be honest, it just kind of escalated.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into this main match in particular. And I just want to hear from your perspective what your plan was in this initial round. Because from our perspective, we were like, even if this plan that we heard works, it still puts her in a really bad spot. Can you just tell us what the plan was there and like what the best case scenario was for you and like if we missed anything?
Yeah, I think if I'm being genuinely hand on heart honest, I was still reeling from Diamond Dilemma. I knew I'd made a mistake. I knew that I'd messed it up for Alison and Medalia. Alison, I was really close to on the show. I think there's a lot of friendships and alliances that we just didn't see throughout the series. And I just felt horrific. And I came in that day and I had given up because I just fell out of my depth. I felt like everyone else deserved to be there more than me. And I just got to the point where I was like, I was ready to like just let them guys play the game. And I was running around, I was having fun. I spent most of my days just wanting to wind Ben up, to be honest with you. That was like my hobby. And they asked me, Charlotte and Ben basically asked me if I wanted to take Ken out, and they were like, look, we can do it as a 4, we can take Ken out. And again, something they didn't show from the beginning, but me and Ken were pretty tight all the way through. He's the one that I trusted through and through, like literally really did trust. And I think on episode 2 you don't see it, but there's me and Ken under the stairs, and I'm like, you've got a secret. I've told you're hiding something. And Ken shared with me about being a professional poker player. So I was the only one in the cast that knew his little secret, which was fun when the game with Pasha came up, because I was sat there thinking, this is going to be great. And so they wanted me to take him out basically. And at that point it sounds so silly and uncompetitive because I am the most competitive person, but I'm also competitive when I know my strengths and weaknesses. And at that point I knew I was outnumbered, and I just thought, I didn't want Ken to go and I didn't want to gang up on him. And so I basically said, no, I'm not prepared to do that. And then I knew that I was going to be out of I could have played it differently. In hindsight, sorry, Ben, if you're going to be watching this, but in hindsight, I think I should have just made it my aim to come better than Ben and got Ben out early doors just for the jokes. And tried to do something like that. But I just wasn't thinking straight. I was just so upset about Alison. Like, I'd spent the whole night. I asked to go home. Like, after that episode, like, the producers came down. I was like, I want to go home. Like, I've made a mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. And like, the rules are read out to you, and we obviously get a bit longer to understand them. But a lot of the time, I was just like, what? Like, what? I just needed a bit longer than we got to get it. Once I get something, but yeah, we didn't get
I think that they definitely should give you enough time to just understand the rules before they get off running. You don't need to know everything about them. You should have the foundations.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. The other Genius game in South Korea, they get like a week in between filming, is it, or something? Which I could have done with that. That'd be nice.
Definitely.
So let's talk about Benjamin, because I think one of my favorite parts of the season was this feud. You guys are working together sometimes, but there's always How do you, watching it all back, how do you reflect on your rivalry with Benjamin?
Well, it was so funny because it was a love-hate relationship. Like, I loved him and he just didn't trust me. And like, I found it hilarious because I never gave him really any reason not to trust me. Even when he was like, you're showing him this, you're showing him that. And I'm like, I'm showing him what I want them to see.
Yeah.
Like, and I just thought there was a lot of power in being able to run around collecting information. And Ben just didn't see it like that. And he just wanted to keep a very small group. And, you know, it did effectively work for him in some cases. But I saw no reason not to want to make friends with everyone. And I had little side alliances with pretty much everyone, really, which was, I won't pick you if you don't pick me. And I kind of had that with every single person on the cast, which is why I never really got chosen for Deathmatch. And that obviously kept me in as long as it did. But yeah, with Ben, he just did not trust me, which was surprising me because on episode 1, when we first went in, we were just running around. Like, we had these water bottles with our names on, and me and Ben were like, we're on Love Island. And we were just having fun. And then within 10 minutes of the game started, Ben was just like, you know, headlights, losing it.
I think one of my favorite moments is when, like, you've got like the paper out and he like busts in. He's like, are you showing them? That might have been Medalia or someone, but you're like, I'm not showing them. What? I'm not. Like, it's folded. That's how would I be folded? I thought it was a lot of fun. That was such a highlight of this show. Speaking of like kind of that dynamic that we saw in episode 6, you were lumped into this group that they called like the naive players. Yeah. So what was your reaction to that label? I believe it was you, Alison, and Medalia that I think it was Charlotte was referring to as the naive players. Yeah.
Naive is completely wrong. Like, weak for me, maybe. I'm not a gamer. I think we've found that out. Like, I have different strengths and different weaknesses. But I think naive was a strong word. You know, like, a lot of the time, like I could tell when people were playing certain games. To be honest, sometimes I thought Ben was quite naive in the games of how he was playing it. You know, I think naive is a silly word to use in my opinion. But I think it was it Charlotte that said it first? I think Charlotte.
I believe it was Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte said it during Safari Race.
Yeah. I think from Charlotte's point of view, that was just, I think at that point, you're in such a pressure cooker. And I think a lot of the things you're saying, you don't actually realize you're saying it. I've watched it back and I could swear down some of the stuff that I actually said and I'm on camera saying it that I didn't say it. I'm like, I don't remember saying that. Did I say that? I don't remember saying that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't hold anything against anyone, to be honest.
That's great. So for however naive people perceive you to be, you did make a bit of genius history here. You were the only person on this cast to not be in a death match.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. Now, my question is, that means you did a lot of watching death matches. Which ones do you think would have been like right up your alley?
Rock, paper, scissors.
I think you beat most people there.
Yeah, I think maybe that one. The Same But Different. As soon as that one came up at the beginning, I quite liked that game. Yeah, I would have enjoyed that. What else have we had? The poker
And then
game.
which ones would you have done the worst at? Like which ones would you have seen and been like, oh, you know?
The one that Alison and Scott played, which was the memory one, which is you had to use
crosses.
Absolutely not. Like I just don't have the memory for it. Like they didn't really show it, thankfully. But when we went into the boxes, we had the 6 colors, and they were like, you get like 5 seconds to remember them. And I was like, well, I'm screwed already because how am I going to remember 6 colors in 10 seconds? So yeah, I just don't have the best memory to be. Well, I don't have the best short-term memory, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, I was going to say, while they didn't highlight you and Ken's relationship too much, there was a big spotlight put on you and Amanfi as a duo, but we mostly heard it from Amanfi's side of things. Was this like a real thing for you?
No, it wasn't. I feel so bad as well because like I just didn't trust him, and I made that really quite clear to him. So in Zombie, within the first 5 seconds, he was like, "Just to let you know, I'm a zombie," and I was like, "Do not tell me this. I do not want to know this information." But I think,
why not? Why did you not want to know? That's such good information. That's the most important information in the whole game.
I say it like that because I liked Amanfi, and I was just like, at that stage, it's episode 2. I have no idea. I'm trying to get a feel for people. And I knew Charlotte was zombie and I knew Amanfi was zombie. What's frustrating about that episode is they didn't make it clear that I was probably the only one from the beginning who knew both the zombies were. So I knew when Ben was stressing about it, I was sitting pretty me. I was a sitting duck because I knew who the zombies were. I knew Charlotte was because Charlotte was just lying to my face and she can't lie. It was written all over her face. Like I knew. So I was fine in that episode. Like, you know, but no, with Amanfi, like looking back in hindsight, obviously that's easy to do, but like, it's a shame really, but he moved, he had snaky moves. Like there was something about him that I was like, no, like I don't trust it. There was a few things that had happened that had made me not trust him. So yeah, it was very built upon this Beex and Amanfi alliance, but it wasn't really ever a thing for me, which is, yeah.
Sure. And then going into Code Breakers, I feel like knowing what the history of you and Benjamin turns into, do you regret how you played that game now? Would you have loved to just send him out of there?
Again, you can see me at one point, I'm sat on the stairs and I'm like, why don't we just play? Why don't we just play? And I think the pressure of people wanting to stay kind of, you can test these games as many times as you want, but what's at stake will never be what is being played in the test games. You will always play differently because the psychology is completely different. And that's basically what was happening. And I think a lot of people just, especially like Ben and stuff, like obviously at the time we didn't know he was like a negotiator. We didn't know what he did for a living. Like we knew he was a professor, but that's kind of it. We didn't know a professor in what. So for him to go home early would have been devastating to him. So he was playing in such a way which was just to stay in as long as possible. And I think it just completely changes the game when you've got people that are just desperate to stay in as opposed to win garnets, build the pot, you know, that kind of thing, like actually play the games. Because, you know, you're going on telly, it's in the back of your mind, you don't want to appear in a certain way on national television. So I think that definitely has a play in it.
Sure.
But yeah, I think looking back, I spoke afterwards and I said, I'm just disappointed because I just said that TV episode is going to be boring. Like, it's just going to be Ben running around, like managing it, telling everyone what to do. And it just looks silly, like completely.
Yeah.
It did end up being one of my like favorite episodes of the season, to be fair.
Thankfully, Benjamin is a little bit crazy. I love Benjamin. So like it made for a decent episode. I was curious, Bex, because I had no idea you were such like a reality TV fan. So you've done the Genius Game, done the Chase. Is there anything looking forward that you're like, oh, I would kill it on this show?
Race Around the World.
Wow, that'd be fun. All right, who from this cast do you want as your partner if you had to pick?
Oh my God, that is an epic question. Probably Ken's like he's like my bestie on the thing. Ben would be fun, but we'd fall out every 5 minutes, but we'd make good time.
Oh yeah. So, I want you and Ben. I think
I would genuinely do it with any one of the teams, to be honest. Like, we all get on so well, so I would genuinely do it with anyone.
Awesome.
You and Ben would be so great on that show. Let's do a quick word association game. So the way we're gonna do this is I want you to teleport yourself like as you're leaving the Genius house, not how you feel about these people nowadays. So anything that you say that like I want your genuine opinions as you left. And then you could always be like, oh, but I love them now. But okay, sure.
Right.
I want to know like how you felt in there.
Yeah.
So let's start with Paul.
Annoying.
There we go. Off to a good start.
You just want me to spill tea.
He said nice.
Yeah. Scott.
Lovely.
Pasha.
Annoying.
Okay. Yeah. Amanfi.
Lush.
India.
A swan.
Ooh.
Don't you just she reminds you of an elegant swan, doesn't she? She just glided around all the time like a swan.
How tall is she?
She's taller than me. I'm 5'6.5". She's about 5'8", 5'9".
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But she did wear big, massive boots, so for all I know, she could be falling.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Allison.
Wonderful.
Bedalia.
Thick as me. Just as thick as me. If I ever went to deathmatch, I wanted to go against Medalia.
Okay, that's fair. Benjamin.
Who?
Benjamin.
Chaotic.
Ken.
Oh, very clever.
And then Charlotte.
A clever snake.
Ooh. Well, let me throw one last one in, Bex.
Oh, go ahead. Just throwing it in there.
Yeah. David Tennant.
Never met him.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Couldn't tell you.
We were joking in the last thing we did that was like it was like when you go to like a theme park and there's like the guy on the screen who's like, make sure to fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah.
That's what he gives off. Bex, is there anything else about your Genius experience? You said that there was some stuff they didn't air that you want to make sure the public gets to know about that you feel like we didn't address here and now.
I could probably talk about 15 minutes solid about all the little bits and stuff that got missed and stuff like that. I just think that not entirely. No, I think Diamond Dilemma. I just want to put it out there. There was a lot of talk online about how it was done intentional. It was on purpose. It was this. It was that. I think just before we went in there, Medalia said something really strange about two and then nodded and then said something. And I just suddenly got this little like, oh my God, they're doing something and I don't quite know what they're doing, but I'm going to end up. And I didn't really know what. And I just panicked. And, I've had so many text messages and messages after that happened that was like, oh my God, that is not like you. Like, I cannot believe that happened. And I'm like, I know, but you're under that much pressure and you don't understand what you should or shouldn't, it was just stress. So that, it was just a massive regret to me. Like, it really played on my mind. I was really upset about it. I think Alison should have stayed longer.
Okay. Can I then ask, like, I don't know if you listened to our podcast from that week or not, but does it change your mind at all to know that we were both like, yes, Bex, thank you. We're so happy you did this.
Yeah, I did actually watch that episode. I was nervous about it, but I did watch it, and I was happy that you said that. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I just
So,
want to say, Bex, like even if you didn't have a full grasp of exactly how it was going to play out, like
Yeah.
when in doubt, protect yourself, which
yeah,
I think
protect
like
yourself.
yeah, I thought it was the right
I
play.
think
I don't know.
I do genuinely believe in like it was fine to protect myself, but I wasn't looking back now. Even if I'd have done it, like in my head, I was like the two that are bottom are going to draw in, and they'll both go into deathmatch. And you know, when your brain is adding all this stuff together, and actually none of that's correct. You're not actually
Right.
thinking straight. And so
Yeah.
had I been, you know, I didn't benefit anyone. Like it didn't do anyone justice or anything like that. So that was the regret. Like I have no issue going into there and protecting myself had it been an actual
It protected you from a betrayal, essentially. It's like a prisoner's dilemma, you know? Like if one of them had betrayed you, you are now doing that self-defense. But yeah, it did screw over the other two, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Bex, thank you so much for joining us. This was
You're
such a
more than
joy.
welcome.
And yeah, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.
See you, Bex.
Bye.
See ya.
Hello, everyone. It's another part of our triple exit interview day. And here we are with the man, the myth, the doctor, and the DJ, Medalia. Medalia, how are you doing day after your elimination?
I'm doing really well, actually. To be honest, watching it back, I am feeling it more like today than I did actually when I was on set.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole in retrospect feelings, and I could have, should have, you know, all those thoughts. Also, the edit doesn't give me enough credit for like what was going on in my mind, for sure. So yeah, today I'm thinking. I even texted Charlotte about 2 hours ago saying, "What would you have done if I had dropped that bluff token?" So yeah,
what did she say?
She said to me, "Do you want me to read out what she said?"
Yeah, please.
I mean, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this. I said, "I'm curious, if I had dropped the bluff token within the 10 seconds, what would you have done?" She put, "If the setup was still the same, where we both had lit up numbers, I would try and throw my token onto yours and let Ben win. But with where the hand placement was, if you managed to time it within the last second to put your bluff token down, I think I would have been too late with mine and you'd win." Oh, man. You know,
So, I want to talk about Medalia because Zach and I had a ton of disagreements about this exact moment. We did hear from Benjamin that like the timer was not very obvious. You just kind of had to keep track yourself. So like in that moment, can you just tell us your perspective? Like, did you understand the tiebreaker rules? Were you counting in your head? Just what went down?
I'll be honest. When I knew I was up against those two, I went in just to have a good time. And, you know, when those guys both went for the zeros at the start, I was like, what have I missed here? Like, what is going on? But that didn't work against me at all. If anything, my naivety and just being there for a good time meant that I wasn't perceived as a threat. But I was able to still observe what was going on. And it turned out that those two were playing against each other. But in that last moment, it kind of, the pace of it was just too intense. And like all credit to Charlotte, she knew exactly how to psych me out in that moment. And that's why I said to her, I think that you're the smartest player here. Yeah, the timer wasn't obvious. That death match, I think, went on for good 2 to 3 hours. And there's a lot of stop-start, obviously. And in that moment, I just buckled. I was too scared.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't even think, but you did try to put it down still. You did still try to get it down at the last second. Was that like a real attempt or was that like a
real attempt?
It was a real attempt.
Because like Ben was like signaling to me, like, just do it. Because that was the only way of him winning. But at that point, I didn't know what to believe or who to believe because everyone was in it for themselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So one of our I'd say biggest criticisms through the whole season has been like the alliance-based gameplay. It's felt like people who weren't not caring as much about going for the win versus just going for like the team win and staying out of the deathmatch. To your credit, you were always someone who, even in those team-based games, we saw always fighting for the token of life, which we loved. But then this episode, we get to see round 1, the Medalia betrayal, which we thought was amazing. We loved it. But if you had done that, instead of just doing it for the one check, for every single check, you basically win that game on the spot.
Yeah.
So Yeah, can you explain kind of why not? If you're going to betray them anyways, why not just do the full betrayal?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So I had been building up that social capital. There was a moment, and that was the moment, and I messed up in the moment. I was waiting for it. So all the criticism that's come before about he's playing it too safe, that was my gameplay to get through to this point, so that they would be like, their guard would be down. When you're on set, these guys, everyone's flying around. You don't know who can see what you're doing. And in that last moment where everyone's cashing their checks in, you're keeping an eye on everyone, but also trying to make whatever move you're making yourself. You're quite exposed. So, like, in my head, I thought that 0, I knew I could change to a 6, but I had to execute at the perfect moment. And I couldn't, there was no way I could have done it for all of them. But what had happened in the later round and what they didn't show was that, and I spoke to Ken about this earlier. Ken, I obviously said to Ken, like, look, Ken, you're going to be in the final anyway. Just let me win this. And and Ken told me to go all in on TV. But the mistake I made was, in the panic of it all, I miscalculated actually how much money I had, and I put the wrong amount in. And that's why there's a random 51.
Oh, okay. Can you explain that more? What did you...
I can't remember the exact amount I had, but I had more money that I could have put into the other.
You had a lot more, yeah.
I had a lot more money. It was just, I miscounted it with all the pressure that was going on.
I see.
So can you talk through this round 2 for me? I know it's a long time ago, but it was very confusing to us. First of all, how everyone seemingly knew what you were doing, which allowed them to ice you out. Like, was it Ken setting you up, you think?
Yeah, Ken set me up.
Interesting.
Yeah, Ken set me up. So they haven't shown it, but yeah. And also, I don't know what their discussions are in the other room. So...
Well, to be fair, they did bring you into that room and they did kind of sell you this plan. Is there a part of you that wishes that you had just like heard that plan and been like, oh yeah, I'll do that, and just like went along with it so that you could like one up them again?
I think if I'd gone, because they put 664 in, didn't they?
Yeah.
I could have put more than that in one of the other ones. I had enough money to do that, and then
you could have done, let's say, like 800, 800, 0, 0 or whatever. Or if they were just put 1 in TV, you could have been 800, 800, 0, 2, 1, 3 out of the 4.
And I would have been fine. I would have won.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was my miscalculation. I took the piece of paper from the studio after, and there's like a random 51 that I've written down. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I get it.
I think it makes a lot more sense. I appreciate that it was like an active play by Ken, right? Because from our perspective, like I was like, did Medalia just tell them like if we just go on TV?
No,
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the episode 4 main match, and specifically you and Amanfi, which we saw. I think if Beex and Benjamin was like the main rivalry of the season, then you and Amanfi was definitely number 2.
Yeah.
We see Amanfi give you the black box. He then tries to tell you in private, and you instantly let the whole world know, hey, I've got the black box. Don't play with me. In retrospect, do you wish that you had played that round differently? And if so, in what way?
Absolutely not. And it wasn't an emotional decision. It was actually a move on my part, because up until this point, I hadn't had the chance to really, take any lead anywhere, because the other players are more vocal and much more confident in their strategic decisions. And one of my strategies going in was not to stick out and not to be seen too much of a threat. And I think the others felt like they were going to be more, they always felt vulnerable, even though they were stronger players. And I never really felt vulnerable. So going into that episode, the producers came into my my dressing room at the very beginning. They hadn't done that all season. And they said something like, go for the win today. So I was much more like fired up. And I was like, what does this mean? Like, what's going on?
You went, I'm winning this death match.
Yeah. But when I got the black cube off Amanfi, I knew I was stuck with it. Like the other players knew I had it. There was no, I did put feelers out. I said to Beex, I tried to like pretend to trade with her to get a white, and she was like, I think you've got the black. Ken knew I had the black. Everyone knew I had the black.
How did they know you had the black?
Well, I know enough players knew I had the black, and it was a moment of time. It was literally a matter of time before they would have figured it out, and no one would have traded with me, because there was too many.
I guess, yeah, just from our perspective, from what we watch on the show, the reason everyone knew you had the black was because you told people that you had the black. Like, was there outside people leaking it, or?
The thing is, I wouldn't have known. I knew that. So
Okay.
Ken said to me something about. I think he said, "I think you have the black." Beck said to me, "I think you have the black," and obviously Amanfi had given it to me. Now, there's other alliances, people doing trades or whatever. It is a matter of time before people will know I've got the black. And my strongest move, knowing that my chances of passing on are so low, is to call out Amanfi as early on as possible. I'm not sure how people feel about it, but it was, to basically say to him, I'm taking you to the death match, and he would have to like live with that thought for the rest of the game. It was a way of that was part of my strategy.
Yeah, I could definitely see it shaking him. I felt a bit of a like kinship with you, Medalia, because on my season of TV, I was playing with a DJ who was hiding the fact that she was actually a lawyer as well. So, Dr. DJ combo, which side of your life do you think helped you more in Genius Game?
That's a very, very good question. Probably doctor size. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm quite a team player. I'm quite a team player. I like to see people do well. And my goal here was to get people from A to B as easily as possible. So if anyone put a spanner into the works, that's not part of the plan.
If there was one main match from this season that you could like go back and like totally change your strategy on, which would it be?
Oh, that last main match.
Other than because we just talked to the last one a lot. Other than that one, is there any other that you look back on? You're like, God, I wish I had done this or that, or.
So if we go through them, the first one, there was no chance I really had a say in it.
Yeah. Zombie game, obviously, you get turned by a Monty.
Yeah, Ben with the one with the code. Ben was that was I think that was a strong play from me, knowing that Ben is going for the win, and I was just I mean, I think at the time,
if you're getting the token of life, I mean that plan literally only made sense for you and Ben. So
yeah, it did. I wouldn't have changed it, to be honest. I felt pretty safe going through. Yeah, it wasn't an aggressive gameplay at all.
Yeah,
I think that makes a ton of sense. So I think Medalia, I'm not really tapped into like obviously the UK audience, but it feels like you got a lot of feedback throughout the show, a lot of criticism relative to your castmates. Like, what do you think the audience, or maybe even us, if you listen to some of the podcasts, what did we miss about your gameplay? And do you think the perception, like, where do you think we missed the mark?
I think the edit doesn't focus on like the interactions I was having with players that weren't specifically about like what you're going to do to win, or like strategy, or the manipulation side. It was very much I was doing things. I was able to get information from people, give it to the right people. I was able to negotiate, keep people on side, like those softer interactions that keep you safe, but also facilitate other people winning, whether they're in my immediate alliance or not. Like those things aren't shown. And in terms of the backlash I've got, most of the backlash I've got comes from the audience, who I think like are very much on the strategy side. I think that the British reality audience have enjoyed my gameplay, because I think it's more relatable. But I think on the other side there is
you did say before we started that I believe it was your uncle was sending you clips from our podcast. Was there anything in particular that he sent you that you wanted to confront us on, that you felt like was, that we had totally missed the mark? Yeah.
No, I think nothing bad, actually. I was going to firstly say like thanks to Cory, because you're one of the first people at the beginning, one of the first episodes where when all these riffs going on, you kind of backed me a little bit. I know Zach, you're the mediator. So
well, did you can I ask, did you watch our last podcast?
For which episode?
The latest episode.
I did, and I appreciated
Okay,
it.
because
Yeah,
I was on your side for that
You
one,
are.
just to be clear.
Well, apparently
no.
I was right. So
I think that the last edit gives me more credit.
Sure.
But what the edit doesn't is irritating me for is that it shows Ben saying things like "I'm a weak player" and like those sort of things. I don't mind that Ben said it, but that's yeah.
What was your reaction to the naive players comment that came in from Charlotte in episode 6?
I mean, it doesn't bother me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
My response is I made it that far, and I'm proud to have got that far. I played a game, and it was a game. It was a game plan that worked. I think like tying in with that naive comment, I have heard like individuals say like he was lucky to get this far. And for me, having been in there and seeing it, it's hard for me to know whether like was I lucky or did I play a good game. I'm not like second guessing it.
I think that's like I just want to put this out there. It's not so much of a question, but like I always thought the criticism towards you specifically in regards to these team-based games was very silly because like, and maybe they were willing to give you the token of life because they underestimated you.
Yeah.
But like, you're the one safe every episode. And I think the idea that it's luck, like certainly that Amonfi deathmatch was a good draw for you.
It was.
Beyond that, like you were immune for like most of the episodes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it was a gameplay that worked. And
Definitely.
But when people give me that criticism, I just say like it's a strategy that works in real life. Being a team player, and my reason for like saying yes to being in the Genius game was okay. If I can bring my skills from every day into this and potentially do well, then I'll do it because I wasn't actually sure about coming on this show at the beginning.
Yeah, you do feel very much like a traders contestant that was like transported over because that's like such you just have such traders vibes if they ever come calling. I would definitely
to be fair, I think you're more of faithful vibes.
No, but I think given the opportunity to be a traitor, I think I would play well. Yeah,
no one would see it coming for sure.
Before we wrap, we want to do a quick word association game where we basically just go through and give you each contestant and like give me one word, and I want you to transport yourself to leaving the Genius house, not how you feel about them today. Okay.
Okay. Back then.
Yeah. So let's start with Paul.
Paul was unlucky.
Unlucky. Very, very diplomatic. Scott.
Smart. I was
Pasha.
devastated when he went out. Pasha.
Yeah.
Charming.
Who's Monfi?
Heartbreaker.
India.
Team player. I think she was a team player. Is that one word? Put a hyphen in there.
Hyphenated, yeah. Allison.
Trustworthy.
Bex.
Loud.
Benjamin.
Emotional.
Charlotte.
Charismatic.
Ken.
Don.
Oh, like Mafia Don?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's scary.
He's pulling the strings and
he'd have a very polite mafia.
Yeah. I think the Safari race is like the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He was orchestrating a win for me. And he was good.
Ken's running the Mafia and he's like, no, I think we all have a real shot at taking this thing. Like, I really
yeah.
Nice guy.
Medalia, is there anything else about your Genius experience that you want to get off your chest that we didn't see that that you want to share with the world?
To hear about.
I think it was an amazing experience, and you know, I'm excited to have been part of it. Like it highlights how there are so many ways of understanding what the word genius means. I genuinely believe anyone could make it through to this point. But all I will say is that the person who wins, like, is like I think the person who will end up winning is like ultimately the most deserving winner of the whole.
Love it.
And it could be either of them.
Yeah. Do you feel like just real quick, because I know we're running out of time. Do you feel like the two strongest players made it to the end?
Absolutely, yeah.
I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah.
I have one more.
I would have loved the Medalia final, but you know.
Yeah. Number
I'm
3.
just very curious because I feel like there's a bit of a consensus of like Ken and Charlotte are like the two strongest. Who felt like number 3 for you? Taking yourself out of it, of course.
Okay, number 3 for me. The thing is, we don't have a lot to go off with the other players, but I genuinely thought Scott.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, honestly, like he got eliminated too early.
He got sniped.
He stuck himself out too much though. But genuinely, I thought he was so quick to come up with strategies for the game.
Yeah, it felt like a big loss when we lost him, and I think seeing the season play out, I think it's a much more competitive show with him still in it. Medalia, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a blast. Are you going for your next job? Are you gonna do a doctor gig or a DJ gig? What do you have next on the roster?
Well, we've got a big show in London in June, which of course.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's on a rooftop bar in London. Genius fans, of course, welcome to come.
Do you have any plans to come to Los Angeles anytime soon?
You know what? I've had a few requests, so if I do, I'll let you know.
Please, if you do a show in Los Angeles, I will be there. I will be your first ticket buyer.
I'll let you know.
I'll be in London in early July, so if there's a set going, I'm not missing it.
Okay, I'll message you on Instagram. It'll be great to see you anyway.
Awesome. Oh yeah, it'd be fun.
I didn't even know he's going to London. It's like,
no, I'm keeping it low key. You know, what are you gonna do about it?
All right, Medalia, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.